Welcome to the evaporation lab. In this lab, you're going to take methanol, ethanol, isopropanol, and butanol. You're going to compare their evaporation rates by how quickly they change and how extremely they change temperature. Because of that, you're going to be using a lab quest today with thermoprobe. So I've got to show you how to use this with your computer because you're going to take the data and make an Excel graph. As you read through the beginning of the lab, you're going to need this handout. It explains all of the intermolecular forces. Those are the forces of attraction between two or more different particles. And in this case, they'll be molecules. If you use this, you can explain right here, here, and here what's going on. For this part of the lab, you want to make a prediction about how temperature will change. Evaporation is an endothermic process. So the thermometer is going to get colder as temperature from, or heat from the thermometer goes into the phase change of these alcohols. The alcohols will start out as liquids and then evaporate into gases. Gases typically have higher kinetic energy than liquids, so the energy had to come from somewhere. It'll come from the surroundings, the room, the air, and it'll come from the thermometer. And so as you see over time, you'll notice the temperature should drop. And what I want you to do with this is compare the different amounts of intermolecular forces of the 4 different liquids that you have today. If they have more of these, they should evaporate more slowly, and you should end up with a line that doesn't go down as quickly. If they have fewer of these, or just the less strong ones, then we would expect them to evaporate faster. And so the temperature will drop much quickly, or much faster. Step 1 is to make sure that your lab quest doesn't have any data on it from the previous class. So you can click the home icon, the center button right there, and then click on the graph picture. That graph picture will take you to this screen, and if you see graph on there, you're going to want to click File and New. It'll say, hey, there's unsaved data, but that's okay. The previous class should have saved their data as an Excel file. We'll show you how to do that. So just discard. And you'll end up back here. If you go back to that graph icon, it should be totally blank. You're all good. Next, you want to connect to the Wi-Fi symbol down here. Click on that. There we go. And you'll see an IP address. This entire IP address, just like it's written here, needs to be typed in to a browser. I recommend using Chrome. Chrome seems to be a perfect fit for this application. Log into your computer, open up Chrome, and type in this IP address to the address bar. You'll notice I've got the IP address written here in the address bar. Hit enter. Applications may have to update. It's perfectly fine. Let's wait for that. All right, now what you're looking at is a graphing interface with the LabQuest device. And up here in the left-hand corner, there's a little box. You want to click on that, open it up, and where it says Run 1, there are 4 different liquids today, 4 different alcohols that you'll be evaporating. So you'll end up with 4 different runs. There'll be 4 different colors, all here. Let me show you how to do it. For this step, you need a red strip of paper, or maybe by the time you watch this video, they're a different color, but they're strips of paper pre-cut for you. You need a rubber band and you need your thermoprobe that's connected to your LabQuest device. Take your strip of paper and wrap it around the end of your thermoprobe. This is going to be the sponge that absorbs the alcohol, from which the alcohol will evaporate. And as it evaporates, we expect it to rob heat from the thermoprobe, lowering its temperature. And that's how we're going to measure the different rates of evaporation today. Faster rates should see a more extreme and faster temperature change. Right. And so what I like is that the rubber band's wrapped around the Hobbit, and some of it's wrapped around the thermoprobe here, and that'll keep it from slipping or falling off. You can even slide some of this up here so you have more around the thermoprobe so that it's less likely to fall off. Next, you need to go and fill your little test tube. Make sure this is empty first. You can, whatever is in here, you can just dump out in the sink if it's left from the last class period, or call your teacher over and we'll take care of the waste for you. If it's just water in here, you can just dump that down the sink. I'm at the ethanol station. Notice there's a reservoir bottle and there's a place to return your leftovers. You will have leftovers and we'll just use that for the next class, but make sure you return the ethanol to the ethanol leftovers, and so on and so forth. You only need to do one trial for each alcohol. So we've given you these pipettes, and you don't have to do anything quantitative with the measuring of your alcohol today. You just need enough alcohol in here, in this case ethanol, so that your piece of paper gets entirely soaked. And so you need a column of alcohol that's as tall as the height of your paper. And so about 1 inch is good. You can put the dropper back into the resource bottle, put this back into your test tube rack, and take it back to your lab bench. We're doing 4 alcohols today, but the lab directions ask you to test everything out with water first. And so we'll have some water soaked into the piece of paper, and then you'll just follow the directions with water like I'm about to demonstrate with the alcohol. But do water first, get the hang of it, get 5 pieces of paper, 1 each for the 4 alcohols, and then 1 for water, just so you can test your systems out. Since you'll be collecting data on your LabQuest, soak your piece of paper and then write down, this is your run 1. Run 1 is whatever alcohol you chose. In my case, it's ethanol. Leave the paper in there for a minute to soak in as much ethanol as possible. While the alcohol is soaking in, what I want you to do is over here where you see the home icon by my thumb, go back home, go to the LabQuest app, and we want to, over here where there's like a speedometer, click on that speedometer, go to sensors and sensor setup, and then click OK because that was the wrong place to go, sensors, and then data collection. You want to make sure that the LabQuest doesn't time out. You have 4 alcohols to do, and I think that all of the evaporation can happen under 10 minutes. So we don't want it to turn off before 10 minutes. And so you can change your time to minutes, change your duration to 10, hit done, and then double check everything. Now it says 2 samples per minute, and that's not enough. Let's have at least a sample per second. So we'll say 60 samples per minute, and done. And now let's double check our data here. We have 60 samples per minute, that's 1 per second. It's going to go for 10 minutes, You may have to do this before every single trial, before every single run, so it doesn't shut down on you. All right, click OK. Then you go back to the graph icon. When you're ready to collect data, you're going to click the play button right here. When you click the play button, you need to simultaneously pull the thermoprobe out of the alcohol solution and drape it into the well sink so that it's not touching anything. Here, I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to click play after I pull the thermoprobe out. So the thermoprobe's out, let it drip off a little bit, and then I'm going to drape the thermometer into the sink. I don't want it to touch anything. I want it to be protected from the wind. I really like that. And then I hit play. As soon as you hit play, you'll see data being collected. This is now on your PC, not on the LabQuest. You'll also see the data being collected on your LabQuest. And that's perfectly fine. What you're looking for is a plateau or a bottoming out. As you collect data for a total of 10 minutes, we are seeing what I predicted, which is a lowering of the temperature as energy from the surroundings and the thermoprobe goes into the phase change of the alcohol from liquid to gas. As that energy goes into the phase change, we'll see a drop in temperature. And you want to keep collecting data until this line flatlines, or even worse, starts to go up. If it starts to go back up, then you know that you're done cooling and evaporating. While we're waiting for the data to flatline, I just wanted to give you another perspective of your thermoprobe and how it's angled into the sink. The reason we did this is to keep the air that's moving around in the room, because we've got the ventilation on, because we have alcohol solvents in the air. We want to keep the air from blowing on the thermometer too much and accelerating the rate of evaporation. So I'm trying to protect it down here in this well. All right, I let things get a little carried away here, and I had an interruption, but you can see what a flat line looks like anyways. So at that point in your data collection, you'd go up here with your mouse. You can hit stop on the LabQuest or on the screen here and just hit stop. Now the nice thing, what LabQuest does is it auto scales your data for you. And when you hit play again, you are going to have your thermoprobe all set up for your second alcohol. And then you'll notice back here when you hit play again, and I'll just demonstrate now. When you hit play again, run 2 will be graphed, and if you want to turn run 1 on, now run 1 is blue, and run 2 is already down at this cool temperature because that's still ethanol. But you can turn the runs on and off by clicking on them, and then stop them whenever you want, or whenever the data has flattened out, actually, not whenever you want. To get ready for the second alcohol, just slide this off the end of the thermoprobe. You'll feel the cooling effect of the leftover alcohol on your fingers, but that's okay. It all evaporates into the air. Keep your rubber band for your next alcohol. This guy goes in the garbage. And use your next piece of paper for your next alcohol. You just repeat the entire process. Hit play again on the screen or on your LabQuest, and data will collect automatically. Now, what to do with your leftover alcohol? You kept track of what kind you had. You're keeping notes about which alcohol matches which run. For me, run 1 was ethanol. So you're going to bring the ethanol back to the place where you got it from the supply bottle, and there's a beaker where it says right next to it, return leftovers here, and just pour the alcohol back in there. Rinse this once with water, or just shake it out. It evaporates so quickly you probably won't have to worry too much about rinsing it. And then move on to your next alcohol. We've got methanol. Here's your isopropanol. And here's your butyl alcohol, or butanol. When you're ready to make your Excel graph, over here you'll have 4 different runs. And you've kept notes about which run matches which alcohol. You'll have, if you click, remember, if you click on the run and the line becomes colored, that means it's showing on the graph over here. So you should have 4 different lines for 4 different alcohols. Okay. And you want to take this file and you want to download the data. When you download the data, give it a name, and I'll call this evaporation rates sample graph. And then, of course, decimal format is good, and then download the CSV. If you're in Chrome, it'll just be down here in the lower left-hand corner. Open that up, and then there's your data. The graphing component of this lab is pretty straightforward because you've done this before. Highlight the data for the first 2 columns. That's your first run. My data table will look different than your data table because my data table only has a run and then a pretend second run. Your data table will have 8 columns for 4 runs. All right, once your data is all highlighted, go to the Insert tab and Recommended Charts. The one at the top is the one you want, the one with the single line, because it looks like the one that you just had in the LabQuest app. When you want to add the second set of data, scroll right back up to the top and then scroll right back down to the bottom. Click on the graph, right-click, and you want to select data. That first series, that's your, well, for me anyways, that was my ethanol. So you click Edit and give it a name. I'll call that ethanol and click OK. I want to add a second series, and that's my second set of data here. My second set of data needs a name. Let's pretend that I did methanol for my second set of data. The x-axis is your time. Oh, I really screwed this up, didn't I? Okay, I fixed it. So anyway, series name is methanol. Click on your series X values, then highlight. That third column is the first column for your second data set. And then get rid of that equals 1 for your series Y values. Okay, and click OK, and click OK. If we scroll down now, we should have the graph. Your graph will have now 2 lines that resemble each other. We can open that up a little bit so we have more definition. Add all of your data sets for all 4 of your alcohols to your graph. Then go to the medical marijuana symbol, click on Axes Titles. Let's put a legend in there, and as long as you titled your data, your ethanol and methanol will show up. Of course, you're going to be printing on a black and white printer, so you will want to insert a text box. So over here where it says text, there's a text box, and when you're all done, you'll want to label which alcohol is which. So that one's ethanol, because we're, obviously we're printing with a black and white printer, so color coding doesn't really work here. All right, there we go. Give me a really good title that tells me what this lab was about. Over here, of course, is temperature in Celsius, and down here is time in minutes. This is an evaporation graph. When you go to print, right-click on the graph. Or actually, just click on the graph so that you've got the white circles around the border. And then File and Print, it should be already in landscape and scaled for you. If not, call us over, one of your teachers over, and we'll take care of you. Okay. When you're all done with the lab today, make sure that your test tube is empty and in the test tube rack, upside down. So it'll rinse and continue to evaporate between the time you're done and the next period comes in. Then, as a courtesy, go to your lab quest and go File, New, Discard. And that'll clear your lab quest for the next period. Finally, pro tip, if you come in and your lab quest looks like this, it's because your thermometer came unplugged. Some of these white tabs have broken off because of eager students pulling too hard on the thermoprobes. And so your thermometer might have a broken tab, in which case, push it back in. And you should see your temperature show back up again. All right, good luck. Have fun with this one.